So last week I asked you guys for some of your championship hot takes for next season, and in today's video we're going to be reacting to some of the best ones. Charlie Rohan says David Wagner and Norwich will surprise everyone. Now by surprise everyone, I'm assuming you mean that in a good way. But to be honest, I'm not completely discounting that. Let's not forget that back when Daniel Farke first came into Norwich, they finished 14th in the championship in his first season, and the year after that absolutely stormed the championship. So Norwich do have a history of that. And I'll also go back to it as well. Genuinely, Norwich were one of, if not the best teams that came to Deepdale last season. We played them when they had that golden patch under Wagner when he first came in. But Norwich have got a bit of their business done early doors, so let's see. But on the flip side of that, Ethan completely disagrees, saying Norwich to finish around 17th. Not impressed with their business, and they finished 13th last year in a weaker league. I feel like come the start of the season, when we all come to do our championship predictions, Norwich are going to be a little bit of the Marmite side, where they'll be placed all over everyone's table. Finishing on the Norwich takes, White Hot Dane says Ipswich will finish higher than their rivals Norwich. Now, I'm not going to lie, I am being swept along in this Ipswich hype at the moment. With the backing they've got, how impressive they've been under McKenna, they do look like a side who could carry that momentum through to the championship. I've seen a lot of people who are backing them, even maybe to be in and around the top 6 next season. Now, we'll have to wait and see what business they do go ahead and do over the summer, but it does feel as if, especially from the last time that Norwich and Ipswich both played each other, when both sides were going in complete opposite directions, that momentum has shifted quite considerably since then. Scott Coughlin says Birmingham a dark horse next season, but I doubt it. I like that as he's typed that, he's gone, yeah, Birmingham a dark horse, but probably not. Spoiler warning for my championship predictions at the start of the season. Unless anything miraculous happens at Birmingham over the summer, I'm probably going to have them placed somewhere between the relegation zone and 17th. That's where they finished for their last 7 consecutive championship seasons, which is absolutely bonkers. There were some points of the season where it seemed like Eustace had cracked the code and they had a bit of consistency about them, but as things stand right now, I'd probably struggle to back them as much of a dark horse personally. Cal Risenhouse says QPR going down, and to be honest, I don't think that's even much of a hot take anymore. I think a lot of people would probably share that opinion. We did a bit of a deeper dive on QPR in yesterday's video, so make sure to go ahead and check that out for my thoughts on QPR at the moment. Punches above our weight, coming out with the most outlandish shout of all, Watford will keep Valérien Ismaël for the whole season. Now I'm trying to think, when was the last time that actually happened? I feel like it happened in the Premier League, maybe with Gracia. Did they keep him for a full season? Maybe, but not happened for a long time that Watford have kept one manager over the course of a full campaign. I am excited by the prospect of having Ismaël back in the championship. Last time at West Brom didn't quite go to plan, but that Barnsley side he had was a hell of a lot of fun. He did manage to get punching above their weight and into the playoffs. Ismaël is a very specific type of manager with the brand of football he plays, and he is a sort of gaffer that needs everything to be geared in his direction when it comes to the recruitment, how things operate behind the scenes, the fitness levels it takes to play his brand of football as well. So whether or not all of that falls into place at Watford, I think we'll have more understanding over these next couple of months, and we'll see which profile of player they are going ahead and recruiting. So yeah, it has the feeling that Watford could either, run away with the league with automatics, or they could be in the relegation zone after a couple of months. They really are that sort of all or nothing club at the moment. Official Willie G says Coventry City automatics. Now Coventry are on this miraculous run at the moment where each season upon season consistently they've outdone where they finished in the season before. Mark Robbins has been the real mastermind behind all of that, but to go one further than they have done this season, I think it will take some doing, especially with the likes of Gyökeres and Hamer, who are more than likely to leave following Coventry losing that playoff final. So maybe this has been the point where they have sort of capped out at their maximum potential for the time being, and it will be a little bit of a rebuild. But to be fair, we've already seen Coventry starting to put the building blocks in place for their side next season. Very savvy pickup for Jada Silva, for example, from Bristol City to come in and add more depth down that left-hand side. So we'll have to wait and see how that Coventry squad's really shaping up come the start of the season. And on the complete flip side of that, James Kent says Coventry relegated, maybe to go down the lines of, Barnsley, how much we saw them regress after making it to the playoff semi-finals, relegated the season after losing a lot of their key players players. With Huddersfield, we saw them right down in the relegation scrap last season after making the playoff final, and let's face it, would have been relegated had it not been for the heroics of Neil Warnock coming in at the final hour. So yeah, Coventry, I think a lot of people will have differing takes on this season. Be interesting to see where that squad's at in a few months. Thomas Hall, and I like this one, has said all 6 of the teams that have just come into the division will stay in the division. So none of the 3 relegated sides from the Premier League will bounce straight back up, and all 3 of the newly promoted sides from League One will stay in the Championship next season. I quite like that as a hot take. My personal perspective on that is I do think there's actually a very good chance that all 3 of the newly promoted sides from League One do stay in the Championship. In terms of point tallies, all 3 of them are some of the best we've ever seen in League One. I do think that was a really strong league last season. And with some other sides who just scraped survival in the Championship last season, who I also foresee having some problems this time around as well, I think that could also benefit some of the newly promoted sides coming up to the league this time around. In terms of the 3 coming down from the Premier League, I certainly don't think that all 3 of them will have it easy, but it is tough to see at least not one of them bouncing straight back up. But as hot takes go, I think that's an interesting one. Sirius is backing Ross Stewart for the Golden Boot next season. Now, Sunderland fans, you'll have to fill me in on how Stewart's currently doing in terms of his recovery and whether or not he will be at 100% come the start of the season. But in terms of the numbers he put up last season, it's scary to think just how prolific he would have been had he been fit for that entire season. And that's the big thing with Stewart, you know, going into next season. Can Sunderland get him fit and on the pitch for all 46 games, or at least the vast majority of the season? In just 13 Championship matches last season, 11 of those being starts, he scored 10 goals and got 3 assists, which is stupid. Averaging a goal every 104 minutes. If he was to maintain that same ratio over the course of a full Championship season, and he was to play every minute of a Championship season, that same ratio would be worthy of 39 Championship goals, which is out of this world. So who knows, if Ross Stewart's fit for the entire campaign next year, we'll have to wait and see. Glimpse HC says Hull City finished top 8. I am interested to see what sort of business Hull are doing this summer. We saw a really ambitious summer transfer window last time around. Not all of those big moves worked out in the end, but it's definitely an ownership who is willing to back a promising manager who is in there now in Liam Rosenior. And let's not get it twisted, Hull have been really competitive since Rosenior has come in through the door. If the Championship season had started from the point that Rosenior took over at Hull last season, Hull would have finished 10th in the Championship, so it's probably not that much of a stretch to think that with another window of backing, Rosenior could get them to within, you know, touching distance of the top 6. LT says no runaway leader and a 3-way last day decider for the automatics. I'm not gonna lie, that would be my absolute dream. I think we'd all love that sort of thing to happen, and I think we are all guilty at times of being a little bit sucked into the thought process of thinking, yeah, this season's going to be a little bit different, you know, there's going to be no runaway leader. I think a lot of people were guilty of thinking that in this season just gone by. You know, Fulham have just been promoted, they steamrolled the league in the end, and everyone sort of thought, yeah, this upcoming season's going to be a lot closer, but then Burnley emerged as that top side, and I think that regardless of the quality in the league, there's always going to be at least that one team who does stick their neck out from the rest. So, I mean, I'd love that to be true, and there is no runaway leader, but I wouldn't be surprised if at least one of the relegated 3 sides from the Premier League properly sorts their act out early on and does get that momentum going, but it will be fun if that wasn't the case. ATIT says Argyle will finish above Preston. Was expecting some of that in there. And Argyle against Preston will be interesting next season with that added spice of, you know, Ryan Lowe up against Schumacher, and it will be tasty between the two. In terms of that as a hot take, I mean, Preston are, and I think we've all accepted this as fans really, we are literally the most mid-table side in the Championship. And to be honest, as things stand from a Preston standpoint, I'm probably expecting more of the same going into next season. I don't think we've quite got the financial muscle or creativity within the market to push us on to that next level, but I also still think we are better set up than quite a few of the sides who did finish below us last season. And in terms of Argyle, they are a little bit of a wild card for me heading into next season, where I'm really not sure where to place them at the moment. Going off the bookies odds, they do have Argyle as the most likely to be relegated out of the 3 sides that have come up, which I find interesting at the moment. But Argyle are constantly going against the odds and proving those sort of metrics wrong. I think a lot of it will be down to how they recruit, how creative they can be in terms of getting some good loanees in. But I think the biggest one from an Argyle perspective will be keeping Schumacher around. Obviously, Swansea are likely to continue sniffing as they look for that Russ Martin replacement. So that's going to be key for them. Tom Kirby says Stoke to be in serious relegation trouble for a lot of the season, but just survive. It is an interesting take, since Stoke have been relegated from the Premier League. They finished every single season in the bottom half of the Championship, while there have been expectations pretty much each year that they would kick on, and it's just not happened. I'd like to think that Alex Neil has the tactical nous to get this Stoke squad up and going, but we saw a little bit of a false dawn from them last season. Once again, recruitment's going to be key, whether or not they can get some of those loanees back on a permanent basis who did fairly well for them in the second half of last season. But I definitely wouldn't rule out Stoke being in a little bit of trouble if things do go pear-shaped early on. But there we have it, guys. Those were some of the hot takes which I did enjoy reading. If you'd like to see a part 2 to today's video, do leave a like and do get more of your hot takes for next season in the comments down below. Always interested to have a read through them all. But apart from that, that will wrap it up for today's video. Make sure to stay subscribed for some regular Championship content, and I'll see you all in the next one.